Okay, man, I'll catch up with you.
So there was this incredible study done. I've got it right here. It's called The Moment That Turns Your Values Upside Down. And there's 4 components to it. There's men and women before and after. Now, before one of these quantum moments, they were asked just to list the most important priorities of their life, from the most important to the least important. Now, for men, the very first and most important value that they had learned was wealth, the accumulation of money. It's not really that big a surprise, because we are taught as men when we're growing up that your job is to support your family, your job is to get ahead. And the second most important value for all of these men was a sense of adventure, to go out there and, conquer the world.
Be the guy.
Yeah, absolutely, be the macho guy. The third was achievement. As men, we're raised to believe that you are what you do, what you accomplish, what you're able to create. The fourth is the idea of pleasure. Going out with the guys, getting as many dates as you can, having as much fun as you possibly can. The fifth of these is to be respected, all right? And we all know as men what that means, You're not giving me any respect, man. And then you get out there, and when you're growing up and you're a kid, and if you don't get respect, you're having fights. Here are the top priorities of our lives, be able to make money, to have a sense of adventure, to have, to achieve, to feel pleasure, to be respected. That's basically the morning of our life.
This sounds like my list.
What are you talking about? When was the last time you had fun?
Oh, do not even listen to her. I know how to have fun.
Do you mind? I'm trying to hear Wayne. Go on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So the second part of this study, which is the after, a quantum shift has taken place. Same questions, only it's many years later, and they followed this over a lifetime. And the number one value is spirituality. Spirituality. The number one thing. It has gone from making money to spirituality, which wasn't even on the list before. You can't even find it. I've got the top 15 of them listed right here. It's not even on there. The second one is personal peace, less anxiety, less stress, if you will. The third one is family. Now, family was on the other list, but it was way down before. Now, what happens after one of these moments, you begin to look around and say, what is it that's important to me in my life? And then the next is God's will. This is the one that says, I have a sense of purpose. And then honesty is the fifth quality. Not just honest that I don't steal, but how honest am I as a man, with my feelings, with that's exactly right, Those are the top qualities for men. So there's the before and there's the after. You can see what a significant change this is, what a shift has taken place here.
Okay.
I know what you're gonna ask. I can already tell.
Yeah. What's the deal with the women?
Bring it on.
For women, it's even more astonishing. Before one of these quantum moments, the number one value is family. And it's not surprising, because women are kind of raised in our society, in our culture, to be a good mother, to be a good daughter, to support your family, to take care of your children, and so on. The second one, which may surprise you, was a sense of independence, of feeling as if I would like to feel independent.
Women are very conflicted.
Yeah, makes sense.
The third was career. Now, very often, women never even felt that they had a right to go for a career because they were obligated to be taking care of their family. And this is not a put-down of that at all. What we're saying here is that there's something more. The fourth quality for women was fitting in, having to be like everybody else and so on. Yeah. And then finally, attractiveness. And this became not just like it's nice to look nice, but my whole values are, and how do I look? And where do we get this?
You know what? That is so scary when you break it down like that, because where is it that we learn as women we're supposed to be pleasing everybody else all the time?
Well, go on the newsstand. All you see are magazines with pictures of girls with waists this big and, with implants. Lots of emphasis on makeup, having the right labels, carrying the right bags and so on. So these became the top qualities or characteristics or values for women before one of these shifts.
Well, I hope the after list is better.
Their values shift dramatically. The number one value for women after having this experience, it's right here, is my own personal growth. Now remember, before it was like taking care of everybody else, doing the right thing, fitting in, and now it's all of a sudden, how am I growing as a human being? How do I feel about myself? The second is a sense of self-esteem. Am I worth anything? How do I feel about myself? Am I a valuable human being? The third one is spirituality. My sense of my connectedness to something bigger and greater than myself. And then happiness. Again, this wasn't even on the list. It was almost at the bottom of the list before. How often have women been raised to believe that their happiness isn't an important thing, that doing what they are supposed to do rather than feeling, a sense of, I'm entitled to be happy. And then a very interesting one, it's called forgiveness. This became very important in their lives. Forgiveness.
That's good, because then you can forgive all those people that gave you bad information about what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of resentment that begins to take place in people. It's what so many people just go along with. Oh,
Right.
Joe.
This is great.
Hey, you're the best. Thank you so much.
This is great. We should be filming this.
Thank you very much. I don't know, would you guys like to hear? I think maybe the only true miracle that ever happened to me in my life.
A real miracle?
Yeah, it was an authentic miracle for me. It was a healing that took place that I still can't explain. So it was in the year 2000, and I had taken a group of 25 people on a spiritual tour to Assisi. I've made several visits there. In fact, I wrote an entire book called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem, based upon the prayer of St. Francis. And I lectured for a couple of hours about it, and we all had visited the places where St. Francis had lived and performed so many of his miracles. The next day, we were going to take a tour to a place called San Damiano, where St. Clare, who was the first female to ever become a part of the Franciscans, lived. And on the third floor there was the bedroom, exactly as it was in the 13th century. There was a young man on that trip. He was 21 years old. His name was John. He was from Pennsylvania. He had cerebral palsy, and he had two very heavy braces on each one of his legs. We were going to go up to the third floor. Now, this was a winding staircase to get up to the third level where St. Clare's bedroom was. Now, John, in order to be able to go up the steps, he would have to move his leg out like this, you can imagine, and then he would go up the step, and then he'd bring the other one down, and then he'd go up the next step, and he would bring it back because his legs were stiff. But as we started to get into the very narrow part of the staircase, he couldn't, his legs wouldn't go out. He could only go this far, so he couldn't go up. And you can imagine he couldn't go down. It was impossible for him to go down. So there he was stuck. I was ahead of him. And he stopped me and he said, Wayne, I'm in trouble. I can't go up another step because I can't get my leg out to the side. There's no room and I can't go back down. What are we gonna do? And there was a whole row of people behind waiting to go up this very narrow staircase. So you have the picture? So I said to him, without even thinking, John, what I want you to do is just strap yourself on over my back and put your arms around my neck and just lean over and I will carry you up these steps. Now, what I haven't told you is that before we went on this trip, I had done some major damage to this right knee of mine, to a point where I had it examined by several orthopedic physicians, and I was told that there would come a time soon when I would have to have this knee replaced because it was down to bone on bone. So as he got on my back, and now we're talking about 240 pounds or so, he went, I went about 3 steps, and I realized that my knee was about to collapse, and I was going to go straight down. And I had a quick vision of what the newspapers and the Assisi Daily News were going to say the next morning. Spiritual teacher collapses, bottom of the stairs, 40 people dead. You know, it was like, and so as my knee started to go down, at that moment, I saw a vision of St. Francis. I had a vision of what he would look like, and he didn't say a word. It was very, very quick, and he just went like this with his hands. In other words, stand up. And suddenly, and I had the fragrance of roses was in there, the same fragrance that I had, remember in the story I told you? In that quantum moment when I had that, the same kind of thing. And I stood up, and I started walking up the steps with him, and my knee just suddenly righted itself. It was fine. Not only did it right itself, but I suddenly had like a burst of energy like I've never had before. Wow. And I started walking faster, with him on my back. Then I started running. And I ran up all of the stairs. My wife was waiting at the top, and she said, "What happened to you? And what are you doing? And everybody else is out of breath." And I said, I had a miracle. I just don't know what happened. And I realized that my knee didn't hurt anymore at all, and I wasn't limping, and I had no pain in it at all. By the way, I've never had any surgery, nothing ever done to this knee. It was a healing that had taken place in that moment. Later on, I started to talk about this miracle, but the thing that I did was, when people would ask me, "Why do you think it happened to you?" I would always say, "Well, why not? I mean, I'm Wayne Dyer, after all, and I've written an entire book about him, and he's...
I deserve a miracle.
Yeah, and it was like, and I really believed that it was like a special sort of thing that came to me. That's what happens, when you get your ego involved in it. And what happened in that moment is that I totally forgot my ego. It wasn't that I'm so grand and so spiritual or that I'm so special. My instantaneous reaction to what John needed was to just reach out to him, and that's when the miracle occurred. In one moment, without thinking, I reached out to a fellow human being in need and forgot about myself. And it was almost as if the door opened, the teachers found me and said, "Here it is." The best way to have those doors open is to forget about yourself and to reach out and serve. It's always about serving. It's, one of the mistakes so many people make is they just think, well, I'm just going to attract what I want into my life. And one of the things that I really profoundly believe in, you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. What you are. We live in a world in which all things are possible. There are no accidents. There's a divine organizing intelligence that supports all things. I think you have to get to the place where you're no longer focused just on yourself. And the things that you really want for yourself, you begin to say, how can I want them more for someone else than I want them for me? And that's God realization. One of the things that happens when you move away from ego is that you move from a sense of entitlement to a sense of humility. You realize you're entitled to nothing. That's just the ego speaking. So the fundamental truth is that you must be like what you came from. If you came from divinity, you must be divine. If you hold your hands up and say, these are the hands of God, then what does God do with his hands? God is just giving. That's all God knows how to do.
Hi.
How are you this morning?
Better than yesterday.
That's a good way to be. Not better than anybody else, just better than you used to be.
Hey, I was wondering, is there a place around here where I could actually buy some flowers? I wanted to bring some back for my wife.
I can let you have some of these if you want.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they're not fancy like you get in a flower shop. They're just indigenous roses. A little more rustic.
I think my wife might actually like that.
Okay, now, wait, let me help you. Cut just above the leafy part there and above the leafy part. And try to do it on an angle. Hey, there you go. Good.
Can you tell I've never done this before?
Not much of a gardener?
No. I usually pay people to do my gardening. People who actually know what they're doing, like you.
Well, I get a lot of satisfaction out of it.
I've never really seen the value in flowers, I guess.
Don't you ever send your wife flowers?
No. Oh, that sounds bad.
It's a new day.
Yes, it is.
You know, there are over 200 species under the genus Rosa. And there's a rose database that has, I think it was over 6,000 variations of roses. Seems almost excessive. Here.
Thank you very much. Can I give you a tip?
No, thank you.
You sure?
It's okay.
Well, I'll be sure to tell the owner of this place what a great staff he has.
You just did.
You? You're the owner.
Well, I really am.
I apologize. I thought you were just the gardener.
That's an easy mistake to make.
I saw you watering the plants.
Plants need to be watered.
Yes, they do. Thanks again. Could I ask you a favor?
Yeah, sure.
I'm here for a board meeting.
Yeah, I know you were at the House of Promise, right?
Yes, and I've got to give this to the executive director, but I don't know what room she's in.
Oh, I can find it.
Well, actually, could you give it to her for me?
Yeah, sure. Is it important?
No, it's just some papers.
Okay, yeah.
And if you could give it to her this afternoon, after I've left.
Yeah, I can do that.
Appreciate it.
So you shift your thoughts from what can I get to how can I offer, how may I serve? If your attention is off yourself and about giving, the universe will respond by giving back to you. The universe will say, how may I serve you? But you have to be in a place of service yourself. That's when the transition is complete, when you move into that place that is without ego.
Hey there.
Hi.
Missed you yesterday. Had a great game.
Yeah, got stuck in town.
Yeah, I understand. Things come up.
Yes, they do. How'd the meeting go?
Nothing changed. They still need the money. But once they get the money, we'll see who gets the contract. See you in the city.
All right, see you.
Boys, not so fast. Don't tilt it. No, we don't want to crush the flowers. That's very good. Oh, I'm telling you, you don't want to know how much these flowers cost. You know, it's the same florist the mayor uses. Now, oh, be careful, please. Thank you.
How about the name Rose if it's a girl?
As we move into the meaning phase of life, it's not as if you no longer are ambitious. It's that you have ambition with meaning. You're ambitious about other things. So now your ambition is transformed into purpose, and you have to learn to become the observer and to step back. You begin to live in process, trusting where your source is taking you. You begin to detach from the outcome. And that detachment allows you to no longer be fighting. It allows things to just come to you. And you're no longer being the person who's making things happen. You're allowing them to show up. The fight is gone. So I get asked over and over again, is there a purpose to the ego? And my reaction to that is it's just not worth defending. The ego is the thing that is the false self. And when you're defending it, you're defending an illusion. You're defending something that really isn't who you are. Your authentic self is way beyond the ego. Every one of us knows that we came here with music to play. And yet we have a tendency to believe that we are separate entities and that we have to fit in, and that's our role in life. And none of that is true. The shift can happen in many ways. It can be just a comet. It can be a coincidence that occurs, a particular event that you weren't expecting. It can be anything at all. But the result is always the same. You begin to realize that you're not here to push life, to make it a struggle all the time. You're here to enjoy and to be living in peace. That's what happens when you're in the afternoon of your life.